The big day. I can think of many big days in the course of my life or in the life of this community or other communities that I've been a part of. Such anticipation and excitement and nervousness. And this is the moment we enter into this week's Parashat Shmini, the final day of the consecration of the Kohanim, the priests, and the completion of the erection of the tabernacle. It's the 8th day, which is in our tradition a day that is beyond, because our cycle is on 7, right? 7 days of the week. Shabbat is always the culmination, but the Shmini, the 8th day, is considered like Olam Haba, like the big beyond normal. And the parasha says, "Vayikrevu kol ha'edah vayamdu lifnei Adonai," and the whole community came forward and stood before God. And then the Torah says, "Vayomer Moshe, zeh hadavar asher tziva Adonai ta'asu, vayar alechem kavod Adonai." Moshe then said, "This is what God has commanded that you do. Then the presence of God may appear to you." So nowhere in the passage does it say anything about what actually God commands them to do. Zeh hadavar, this is the thing that you should do. But it doesn't say what. And so the commentators, of course, have to fill in the blanks because they don't like ambiguity. The rabbis, like most people, don't like ambiguity. And so they come up with what is the zeh hadavar, what is the this that Moshe is talking about that will, of course, make God's presence come and God's glory come into the people on this most auspicious day. One commentator offers that Moshe saw how the community, Vaikrevu, how they came close. And as a result, the Shekhinah rested upon them. And he was very moved by it. It says, in the Hebrew it says he was so fired up, really, by the experience of imagine being the head of a community. And imagine when you ask people to move closer, that everyone might actually get up out of their seats and actually fill the first rows. Imagine the feeling of that. That would be incredible. But Moshe, we're not in the consecration of the sanctuary here, but halavai, someday that will be the case. And Moshe was so moved by how close the people came, which caused, of course, the Shekhinah to dwell. And he says, Zeh, this, achava and ahava, this brotherly and sisterly love, this connection that you have, this feeling for one another, is the thing that God commanded you. If you always ask this way, with love, with commitment, with connection towards one another, the glory of God will appear to you always. So the zeh hadavar, this is the thing, was that action of coming close together and feeling one another's presence and the commitment that they had to one another and the love that it was evoked, whether it was the condition for them coming close or whether it was the experience of coming close that allowed them to feel that sense of connection, that sense of love. Another commentary, the Maharsham, who was a 19th century rabbi and halachic authority in Galicia, said that the zeh, this thing, is the thing you need to remove, which is very typical of a lot of answers. The thing you need to remove is the yetzer hara, the evil inclination. If you remove the evil inclination from your heart, the glory of God will appear to you, he says. And he bases this on the teaching of Shalom, who spoke about one of the miracles of the temple. When they stood, he said, in the temple, when people stood in the temple, the Beit HaMikdash in Yerushalayim, they stood crowded. And then it says, but when they bent down, they had room, miraculously. Which is an oxymoron, right? Because if you're standing in a crowded place, you would never think that if everyone bent down, if they prostrated themselves, there would be enough room. But according to the Shalom, this was actually one of the miracles of the temple. Why? Why is that the story? When everyone stood in the temple, it was so crowded and cramped for space, but when the time came to bow down, there was ample room for everyone. As long as everyone stands up for his or her or their self, with each person proud and haughty, they are all crowded. For as God said, when they are conceited, it is as if they leave no room for me. On the other hand, if we all bend down and are humble and modest, there is a lot of room around them. All the people who came close were proud of coming to see the Shekhinah. So Moshe had to remind them to remove the Yetzer Hara from them, so God's glory will appear. So they wouldn't be so proud of themselves for coming close because they got to see God, but that they would remove their haughtiness and be humble in order to be able to leave literal space for not only each other, but for God, God's self. We are living in a world deficient of not only humility and modesty, which is modeled from the most very high up, particularly in our own country, but also a profound deficiency of a commitment from one human being to another. Basic life, from one human being to another, from one, even in our own people, the Jewish people, of one another, from one people to another, and all humanity. We are deficient of a loving commitment to truly see each other and a willingness to look at a person across the way or who thinks differently than us. When we are able to do that, underlying this tradition, it seems, according to Parashat Shmini, that is when God's glory will appear. Perhaps big days are not only graduations or birthdays or bar mitzvahs, Nathan, even though it will be a glorious one. Or Independence Days, or ceasefire days. Perhaps true big days are the one where we can remove the bigness of our egos and our evil inclination and make space for one another, and in turn, make space for God. God, it seems, wants nothing more than for us to see the glory of what it can be to be together as a people and as a humanity. One day a week, we try to live this out in all our glory, which is Shabbat. A day when we don't consume or control anyone, when we shut off that need to be connected to our phones, to buy, to suppress. When we are all gathered together in person in the sanctuary, hopefully close up, or davening on the live stream if we couldn't get here, bringing our voices and our hearts in song and prayer to touch a bit of what it means to truly dedicate ourselves as a sanctuary with love and with space for each other. It is we who make God welcome. It is we who beckon in God's presence. It is we who need to make space for God. So let us come close and welcome God in.